All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So we dug the raft out the other day and we're getting ready to go on a little trip with it. So I figured right now, while it's on the lawn and easy to film, I'd kind of show you guys everything that I've done to it for upgrades and mods to just make it more efficient and make it better for me personally on the water to fish out of, and just kind of show you everything that we've done to it. I think it's my 4th year with this raft. We've hauled it from Maine to New York a couple times. We mostly fish in Maine with it, but it's held up really, really well. I did a first year review on this raft. I can link down below, but it's still held up awesome. No issues with it at all. And these few mods that I've done to it have really just kind of made it a lot more easier to fish out of. Yeah, so this is the Hooligan XL model. We got the duck bill on the front, and it does have an extra seat on the back here, and it also has another casting brace like the front. So we've taken that off. When we fish 2 people, it's just easier to take that off so the guy rowing can hop in the back, and when we have the motor on the back, it's easier to have that casting brace gone. So that's why it's set up in that configuration now, but we'll start out right up in the front here and check this out. All right, so one of the problems with these types of setups, just rafts in general, and even a lot of drift boats, is there's a lot of stuff to get your line hooked on. When you're casting, you know, you're making a big cast and all your lines piled in the boat. There's rods, there's little things that stick out here and there that the line's gonna get caught on. I actually found this at a antique store for some reason. It was a brand new like stripping basket that actually goes around your waist. And I just thought, well, we'd try it on here. So I buckled it around the back. It sits here so the guy up front can strip line into the basket. So when you cast, it doesn't get hooked on anything. I think what would be better if this was raised up a little bit more. So maybe we'll try to like rivet it or pin it up higher. A lot of the drift boats have like the bubble hood on there, so you can strip your line into that and it won't get caught in anything. But with these rafts, there's just so much stuff to get caught on. So we put that on there, pretty cheap mod. I'm gonna link everything that I can down in the description below, because we've done a lot of stuff to this and most of it's, you know, fairly cheap. But I'll link everything down below that I've done, so you can find all the stuff if you want to do this to your raft. This was one thing I really wanted to do from the beginning, sort of, was add some more rod storage on here. When we have 3 guys on the raft, we can have 2, maybe even 3 rods a person sometimes. So this XL model comes standard with a 5 rod holder over here. So I wanted to add a couple more, and I did have a video on making this rod storage little rack here, and it was a double barrel, so it was 2 rod holders. I decided to add 1 more. I actually completely rebuilt this, so you can go back and watch that video. I took 2 10-foot pieces and bent them, but with this I actually took a 10-foot piece, added an elbow, and so now we can fit 11-foot rods in here without sticking out at the end and busting the tips off. And I also made it a lot more sturdy by putting this piece of aluminum on here. These connections don't seem to bother at all, putting the rods in and out. The guy in the back, all of his reels are facing back towards him, or if you're the rower. So you can pull the rod right out this way instead of the front guy, you know, having to take your rod out, flip it around and pass it to you. So that's a huge add-on that we use every single time we go out in the raft. I'll kind of show you a little bit more detail how it's hooked up, so you can kind of see how I pieced this together. I just bought some, I don't know, 45s and glued them right to the 10-footers. I took a Dremel tool and notched those out, or a jigsaw, whatever you want to do. And the front here is hooked with a tie down strap. It's just loosely sitting on there, but I put down a little tie point here so we can run that strap through just to hold the front from going anywhere. And then this time I built this bracket here, which keeps the rods right, you know, parallel to each other, because what was happening with the old one is they would kind of twist up and get stacked up on top of each other. So this keeps the rods nice and flat, and it seems to work really well. It's bolted right through. It was just a piece of aluminum that I bent. I bent it right around and then bolted it to itself right through the duck bill that we have on here. And I bolted up through with Phillips head screws so they don't stick down and rub on the raft at all. They're nice and flush. So you can see how we cut this out. Kind of do it however you want, nice and custom. And then I sanded it. It goes all the way back. Just have a piece of foam here so it doesn't rub as bad. And then back here, I added a little piece because I cut too far back here and the rods weren't fitting in all the way, so I had to add a piece, kind of screwed that up. But we put a big bolt right through all three of these so they hold, again, nice and flat to each other. Put some washers on the side. We run some of these tarp bungees through there, and this makes it so we can wrap it around a reel and pull it back. It fits spinning rods as well, as you can see. It just works really well, and highly recommend adding that. And I'll show you the other rod holder here because we modified that as well, and I'll show you why we built this one. So here's the rod holder that came with the boat. This piece of wood here didn't come with it. It was slammed down right flush against the frame. So the problem was you have 5 rod holders here, but when you have big fly reels and they're all stacked in there, they would sit sideways. But you couldn't really fit 5 rods with reels in there very well, especially spinning rods. So what I did was I built this spacer here, and I just used some of the bigger reels that I had to space it enough so when I lock this down in, the reel hangs vertically. So when you stack those rods in there, they fit nice and tight together, and they're easy to get in and out. And I think now Southcraft is actually making an aluminum riser that these mount to. I saw some of the newer rafts that they have, and I think they realized that was happening. So they built a little riser for this, and now it's coming standard on there. This is the front seat. And what I've done on the front seat is I added this outcast bag. It fits perfectly on these seats. The problem with these rafts, obviously, is that there's no really internal storage or anything, so you've got to kind of get creative with it. This bag has been awesome. It's got cup holders on the side, which I don't really use, but it's got big storage up here that you can fit a big briefcase style, a big streamer box in there. You can see we got a little tackle box, some streamers in there. Usually pack all my fly boxes in there so I don't have to bring an extra bag banging around on the floor. In here, got some split shot. We got some granola bars, indicators, just a bunch of random stuff that we might need. It's also got another big opening in the top here. Looks like we got some trash from last year, somebody's pizza bag, so river pizza. And one thing I did was I added this fish pond line management thing. I don't know what it's called actually. I'll link it down in the description below. All I did was pick out 10 of the most common lines that I'm using. So everything is right there, right accessible. And all I did to mount that was, there's a drain hole in the bottom of this bag here, and I just ran a piece of rope with a loop in it, and then I could just clip this right on there and it just hangs. So when I'm rowing, I can just grab that, pull off a piece, cut it, and then we don't have to dig around in a bunch of bags. Also mounted a little watch, a little cheap watch up there so we can know what time it is on the river. And that's about it for the front seat. That right there has been a great add-on. Usually we would just have one pair of either pliers or forceps hooked to the boat near the rower seat. So if the guy in the front or back needed them, we have to detach them and pass them up or whatever. But this year I decided to permanently or semi-permanently mount a pair of pliers or forceps. We've got forceps back here and a pair of nippers on some retractable steel cable zingers. We riveted a little stainless steel ratchet strap mount and we just clipped it right to that. So that way it's not banging around the boat. We obviously don't want this to ever get into the side of the boat and puncture a hole in it. So I mounted it towards the center so it can't fall off and rub on the rubber of the raft. That's one other thing is everything I do this, I try to make sure that nothing is rubbing on the raft itself to puncture that rubber. I want to prolong the life of this thing as much as possible. So we'll talk about the oars real quick. These are the Cataract. I don't know exactly what they're called. I'll see if I can link them down below. But they're Cataract oars. They're upgraded from what normally comes with these. But what I did was I put on the Oarites. For the whitewater guys, they say these are like the training wheels for, rowers. But for fishing guys, almost a necessity, because what they do is allow you to put your oars in and it will keep the blade up and down, it'll keep it vertical in the water. So if you're anchored in the current and you're ready to fish, you're anchored and not moving, let go of your oars, they swing down current just like this. The blades will stay vertical, and it'll keep the raft from kind of wandering with the blades. You know, if they didn't have these oarites, they'd be kind of flopping around. So this kind of keeps those blades tracking nice and straight, and keeps your boat, you know, a little more straight than it would. And that way, if you ever need to grab on the sticks real quick, they're already oriented in the right direction and you're ready to go. The other thing that I did to these oars, I upgraded to the shoal cut blades, which I wasn't 100% sure that it would make that much of a difference, but it really does. These came with kind of like a utility blade, a longer flat blade. And we get into some skinnier stuff, and these shoal cut blades really work well. You can just get more of a bite on the water when you need to. So definitely recommend those upgrades to the oars if you're gonna be doing this type of stuff. The next upgrade that I did to this raft was I bought the NRS high back rower seat. This came with a shorter seat. You can get whatever seat you want. The cool thing about Stealthcraft is you can customize your boat any way that you want it. You know, if you can dream of something, or you want something specific on your boat, they can do it. It's a custom shop. They weld these frames all up. So if you want something, you can do it. If you want this seat, you just tell them, they put it on there. But mine, when I ordered it, came with a low back seat, which was surprisingly comfortable. I didn't think I'd like it at all. But this year I upgraded to the high back because I wanted to, just spending longer hours in the boat, give you a little bit more back support. So I just put that in. I've used it once, and I think I like it pretty good. So upgraded that, and it also has a drain hole in the middle here, which the other one didn't. So that's nice to have as well. When it's raining, you're not sitting in a puddle of water. Another thing that I did along with mounting these forceps and stuff was I mounted a river knife, like kind of what the whitewater guys would use, just an NRS knife in case we get a cut, like an anchor rope or something like that. You want one that has a blunt end like this. I'll link this one in the description below, because you don't want to puncture the raft or anything like that with it. So they make these, you know, rafting whitewater knives, and really I just keep it right here by the rower seat. And it's really only for if we have to end up cutting the anchor rope here. I don't have any knots in my anchor rope, so, you know, if we get into trouble, I can just pull the anchor up, let go of the rope, and it'll all go out the back. That is if nothing gets knotted up. If something gets knotted up really bad and we can't get it undone, this is like plan B. So we just cut it and let her go. All I did for that was take some washers, mount a piece of aluminum, and rivet it right to my tray over here. And my knife sheath clips right into it, so it sits right there all the time. I added this adhesive backed foam last year. You can see it's green over here, that's the foam. It used to just be a black aluminum pan there. These do come with some foam up in the front for your reels to sit on, and some fly patch foam there. I think there was some back here too, but I pulled it all off, and I bought a big sheet of this on Amazon, and I just put it on myself last year. And I like to bring my big camera with me that I'm shooting with right now, and I like to set it right here. So it just kind of protects that and protects other stuff that we're kind of banging around the boat, kind of quiets everything down. So did that for the rower's seat area, and also up here by the front seat. Another safety thing that I keep in the boat is a throw rope. It basically lives right here. It's basically just a bag full of rope that you use. You'll see like river guides using it. If you get into some whitewater sections and somebody falls out of the boat, you never know if someone's gonna fall out. If you're standing up fishing and stuff, or hit a little wave train and someone tips out, you grab onto this, unhook it, throw the bag, hold the end of the rope, and they can grab onto it, you can pull them back in. Just a kind of a safety thing. Hopefully you never have to use it, but it lives right here, clipped right to the back of the boat. This boat came with a bailout pump that you can stick down in these openings here and bail out your boat. I don't really ever use it, but it lives underneath here. I've just attached it with some of these little twisty tie down things, rubberized cable that you can lock stuff down with. It lives right underneath that deck. It's not in the way at all. It sits right back in there. This raft has 5 different chambers. The raft tubes itself have 4 chambers, and the floor is 1 chamber. So we'll talk about what I use to pump that up with. Now, you don't have to buy this because the raft itself comes with a pump, But the problem was, first year I had it, it was kind of a cheap little like floor pump type thing. And I blew it right in half. And I fixed it, put it back together, but I think this is a better option. It's a big upgrade. It's a K pump. You can see that. I'll link it down in the description below. That's what a lot of the whitewater guys use. This is the K40. I know that a lot of people ask in the forums and stuff like which K pump are people using. This is the K40. You can see it's not that big. It's just under 2 feet long. But the cool thing is it has 2 different chambers. So you turn this top piece here and you got the big chamber that pushes a lot of air. And then once you start getting a lot of resistance with that big chamber, you can lock it, unlock the small chamber, and fine tune it with that and get it even tighter. Because this raft rows much better and the floor is much better when it's nice and tight, nice and hard. And it comes with a couple different adapters, but it doesn't really matter as long as you can get it in that opening there, she'll push air. So one thing we did was add this tape measure on here. It's a quick way to tell if you're legal or not, but for the most part, it's worked out really well having that right there. You can catch your fish, lay it right on the side of the frame, take your picture and toss her back. On a lot of stealth crafts, different boats that they have, they put on this material called spaghetti mat. And it's used in kind of like locker room scenarios. It's stuff that it's not gonna hold moisture and get moldy and get all nasty, but it's also gonna protect our floor covering, so you can wear cleated wading boots in here. We were wearing them before, and there is like a layer of foam on top of the floor to kind of protect that from cleats and stuff. It's not really recommended that you wear them in here, but we were, and it was getting a little bit chewed up, so I figured to prolong the life of that, I'd buy some of this stuff. It's not cheap at all, but I wanted to do it so I wouldn't have to replace the floor. And I just got a big 12-foot piece of this mat. I pulled the floor completely out of the boat, laid it on top of the mat, traced it. I think I got a 12-foot by 3-foot piece. I'll link the company down in the description below where I bought it. Like I said, wasn't cheap, but I think it's a good investment to have to prolong the life of this floor. But I just cut it out with a pair of scissors, tossed it in there, and now we can beat the crap out of the floor and not worry about it. So we have a 6-horse motor that we use for this raft. I started out with a 2.5 horse, and it wasn't quite enough power to get upstream in a couple places that we try to get up. So a couple little runs that were just a little bit too much for the 2-horse. So I bumped up to a 6-horse with a long shaft. You can use short and long shaft motors with this boat. This piece that comes out here is made to mount a motor on. So the short shaft, you mount it right to that. The long shaft is better in my opinion, but you do have to build a little bit of a riser for that. So all I did was take a, what was this, 2x10. I think I added about a 5-inch riser there and U-bolts right through. And now the motor sits right on this plate, kind of trims it up a little bit so the motor's not way down. And it seems to work really, really good. There's always a big debate on what motor to get for these things. The short shaft motor, the Yamaha that I had, when it was attached to the raft and you weren't sitting in the back, if you started it, it was out of the water enough so it wasn't sucking water up into it. I didn't really like that. So obviously when you sit on the back and you start running it, it squats way down and it works fine. But just idling there, if you're sitting up in the front, or outside the raft and you start it, it's just going to be sucking air and that's not good. So I got the longer shaft, went with the 6-horse, and that pushes us right along upstream, no problem. And I can get it a little bit deeper so I can start it outside of the raft and it'll be running fine. So that works really well. All right, well, I'm not sure how well you can see this in the garage, but this is the outboard that we use. This is the 6-horse Mercury. I have done one modification to this, and I don't know if you can see it here. This right here is the rock hopper. You can order this directly from Rock Hopper, and you'll have to order it specifically for your motor, or you can get it through Stealth Craft. They sell them as well. But you just have to bolt it on, and it basically just makes it so if you hit like a bigger rock, you're trying to go upstream or downstream, and you got a big stump or a rock or something that you don't see, it'll bash off this thing. You'll leave your motor unlocked, it'll kick the motor up, you'll go right over it, and you won't damage your prop or your skeg. It protects all of that, and trust me, I've tested it out, and it works. So one of the problems that I had with this raft was the anchor system. I really like the front area where the pulley and the cleat up front all come right in front of the rower, so you can pull straight like this. And I kind of just pile it all into a bin up in the front. The problem I was having was this came with a pyramid style anchor that basically just had a pulley on this double pull system, and it would move up and down. So this line would always get twisted up on me like this. It would be banging down through the current, it would twist, and then I would go to pull it up and it would get all bound up, and I couldn't pull it up anymore, which is pretty dangerous, especially if you're anchoring, you know, a little ways above a run, and then you start to pull your anchor up and you can only get it up halfway, and there's, you know, like a wave train or a riffle in front of you that you got to get through, and you know that anchor is going to grab something. That's pretty dangerous. You don't want that to happen, and that was kind of happening. So there's a couple different fixes for that. The first thing I did was I bought the Tornado anchor. If you guys don't know what the Tornado anchor is, it's a pretty cool anchor that's different than, you know, most drift boat anchors. It is pricey, but it also isn't made out of lead, so we're not leaving a bunch of lead in the river if you end up losing an anchor. But it doesn't spin around and around and around like the pyramid anchors do, so it doesn't twist up the line as much. So we'll get a tighter shot of this here. The next thing that I bought was a Spin RX. Yeah, you can get these right on Amazon. It's a lifesaver. If you have a drift boat or a raft with an anchor system like this, just get one of these. It'll save your butt. It'll keep the line from getting twisted so much. But basically you clip your anchor right on here. This is a big swivel, so this spins. If you get a bunch of line out and it's spread out like this, your anchor can twist and spin without spinning the rope up. What I found with just this, it was still twisting on me every now and then, getting twisted up. So what I did was bought a super heavy duty swing swivel made for like tree swings here. So these two things, this big swivel here and this Spin RX, both of these are really what fixes the problem that these have. I also upgraded the size of the rope. This is a ice climbing rope. These come with a smaller diameter rope, and I think now they're coming with a thicker diameter rope. They're just easier to pull, they're easier on your hands, and they don't twist as much. This rope specifically is a pretty stiff rope, so it's harder to twist. And it's made for ice climbing and being in wet environments, so you can buy a whole length of this and have two ropes. So I'll link that in the description below as well. So upgrading the size of the rope, Spin RX, and this swivel on the back fixes the anchor twist problem. I have had 0 anchor twists since I fixed this and figured this out. It took a lot of trial and error. So hopefully if you guys are having that problem, you do this, it's gonna fix it 100%. So watch what happens now. If this gets twisted up, which it won't because it just can't even twist, twist it up tight like that, and I let go, it completely untwists itself. It just can't twist when you're pulling up. It pulls tight and untwists. So that's what it does. It's pretty sweet. So one more thing to mention, that swivel, you can't just buy like a steel on steel swivel. It has to be a ball bearing style swivel that's super smooth, or that just won't spin. Because I tried it, trust me. Get the one I linked in the description. It'll just fix everything. So here's my Tornado anchor that we were talking about. I just got this big carabiner on here so I can pick it up in and out of this anchor nest that we got on the trailer. These spin around and they grab in the dirt and the rocks. They just create more surface area to bite onto. And I think, you know, the guy who created it claims that you don't have to use as much weight. So kind of the last thing here is, as I said before, there's not a lot of storage. Actually, there's no storage in these boats. So you gotta be kind of creative. What I did was, I've tested out a bunch of different boxes, but the best one so far that I found is the RYOBI box. It fits just perfectly underneath the seat. I think you gotta get something, if I remember correctly, this is 10 inches tall. So you gotta get something 10 inches or less and wide enough to still hold some gear in it. So you're kind of limited, and it would be nice to have it waterproof. So I found this at Home Depot. It's a RYOBI case, and in it we just keep, you know, some life jackets. I got a patch kit for the raft. We got a first aid kit, some extra plugs, a hat, some extra sunglasses if someone forgets them. A net here to see what's going on in the river with some bugs, sunscreen, tow straps. We have a saw in case we run into a situation where we got to cut something in our way on the river. a pair of side cutters in case somebody gets a big hook in the side of the arm or something, and a bunch of extra anchor components because this is the rope that it came with. You can see it's a much smaller diameter, but I keep it in this box along with a couple D-rings, a couple carabiners, the pulley that came with this, and a basketball net. If you guys haven't heard about it, you can use a basketball net as a makeshift anchor if you have to. If you lose your anchor and you lose all your rope, all you have to do is take your basketball net out, go to the side of the river, tie the ends off, fill it up with some rocks, and then run your new rope through with your old pulleys and stuff, hook it right to that, and you get a basket basically full of rocks. I'm not sure how long it'll last, but you might be able to fish a few more holes, finish out the day. So I keep that around. Haven't had to use it yet, but we might have to someday. So that's just kind of a little dry box so we keep some of the essential stuff, and it fits really good underneath the seat. And real quick, I'll show you guys the trailer that I kind of built for the Raft. When you buy the Stealthcraft Hooligan, any of their boats, really, they make trailers for all their boats. So if you want to buy the Raft with a trailer, they'll make one for you that'll fit right on, no problem. I didn't do that, so I bought this small boat trailer. It's a Venture trailer, and it just had two side bunks, had one of these on each side for a little V-hull to go in, or a little John boat. And all I did was buy an extra set of bunk mounts right here. Bought some longer pieces of wood and some carpet, and just made a nice flat surface for that Raft to sit on, and it works really well. I built the front piece, a little bumper up there, built some mud flaps for it. I don't know, it works pretty good. We beat around in the woods with it, and we've hauled this thing to New York a couple times, so it's held up really good. All right, so that ends the tour of my drift boat Raft and all the modifications and little tweaks that we've done to it to make it our own and just make it easier for us to fish out of the way that we fish. If you guys see something that I didn't talk about that you have a question about, leave it down in the comments below. I'll answer it. And the only thing I didn't show is, and it's not really part of the Raft, but it's kind of like sort of like a guide box type thing that you keep all your flies and all your equipment and stuff in on the river. It's kind of like a Yeti Go box, but those don't fit in this Raft under the seat. They're not tall enough, so I built a smaller version of that to slide into the seat. So everything's in there for gear, whether we're spin fishing or fly fishing. So, but I can make a separate video just on that box. So if you guys want to see that, leave it in the comments below. We'll go over that at some point. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you guys are looking for a drift boat Raft like this, I definitely recommend checking out Stealthcraft. They have the most durable, rugged, most stable rafts in the game right now. So go check them out. Leave them down in the description below. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next video.